Coming home, coming home. Tell the world that I'm coming home. Attempting to vlog while driving. So this is going to be part of the podcast. Perhaps. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. This will be some just like good content, I guess. Some good like in substitute of like a real legitimate podcast. You have to watch this instead. I was doing a podcast, but then they're doing some wood staining. They're doing some polyurethane. So I'm glad it's playing my fucking music! It's playing my fucking music! And I never told it to! I never told this car to start playing my music, even though it's a good song. I need to turn it off. Okay, no, trying to get copyrighted right now. Not trying to get copyrighted right now or anything. But yeah, so they're, oh dear. Can I flip this around? No, I can't. Can you see it? Can you see that? Look at that. Can't really see it, can you? Some deer. Anyway, so yeah, they're doing some wood staining. Wood staining wasn't a problem, but as soon as they said polyurethane, it's probably some sort of plasticky thing. Don't want to be inhaling the plasticky fumes, if that's too crazy of me to say. I don't want to be doing all that. That's not something I want to be doing. Yeah, so we're just driving away from there. Don't want to be involved in any of that. But yeah, so I'll try and remember some of my other topics. So what I was going to talk about? I was going to talk about how much I love the film There Will Be Blood. It's such a good film. Probably one of my favorites. Probably top five ever. Top five ever, I'd say. Top five ever. And it's so good because it reads like a novel almost. Like it's very slow, very elaborate. Not elaborate, like it's not complicated. It's not like some like you have to be like a fucking intellectual to do it. But it's an experience that's not like most movies. Most movies will hold your hand and be like, and then Johnny said this, and Johnny, you have to get the blue thing to fit into the key. You have to save the world, you have to get the blue key and put it in the slot. That's what most movies are like. This one is just like you're just watching the events unfold as this, this oil tycoon, this entrepreneur, played by Daniel, whatever the fuck his name is, Daniel Day-Lewis, and it's just this beautiful story about family, about what happens to someone when their work consumes them, and what happens to a person when they're not able to work anymore, and the work was the thing that defined them, and the cost of being like, the cost to your soul that it takes to become like an oil tycoon, and to just like not be a good dad, and to be successful in some areas but not others. It's so well done. It's like there's a lot of sequences. There's several, like the first 20 minutes, no dialogue, absolutely no dialogue. And it's just showing you his day in the life where he's, just like mining, looking for like gold and silver and stuff, and he's having a hard time, and like, he falls and breaks his leg, and he somehow miraculously gets out of this horrible situation. So it establishes his character really well without him having to say a single word. And then for the the next like 10 minutes, there's like almost no talking. He like adopts this kind of like abandoned child that's like father died in the oil rig, maybe feeling some guilt or like some sort of like responsibility toward this abandoned orphan child that's father died in like the oil rig that they were working on. So there's so much good stuff communicated without dialogue, and you know, part of that and part of what makes it so good is the soundtrack. Shout out to Johnny Greenwood from Radiohead. Probably one of the goats for like film composition. Some of the most beautiful like film soundtracks I've ever heard are from him, especially like Phantom Thread. If you've ever seen that film or listened to that soundtrack, you'll know that Phantom Thread, one of the prettiest sounding film soundtracks of all time. So There Will Be Blood. It's also got Paul Dano, who is not as good as Daniel Day-Lewis of an act. He's not really on the same caliber, but still not bad for the role. He was well cast for this kind of pathetic, meek. He's a preacher who is also like has kind of this parallels the flaws of Daniel Day-Lewis's character with the greed and the need for power and control and just the bullying and all of that, physical abuse that he you know unfolds onto his poor father, and that Daniel Plainview, the character, the oil tycoon, unfolds onto him. It's so just like you could talk about for days. You could look into every single little facet of it. You just take your time sitting and hanging out with these. You just get to appreciate the landscapes in the desert of California. Appreciate the scenery, appreciate the soundtrack. Like, not many films have such good soundtracks that they can kind of like have the confidence to leave so much dead space with no talking and just have just the soundtrack as like the driving force. Because that's like, if your film, like the sound is the driving force of that's kind of like what dictates the mood of the film, because what you're seeing is only like, it's so obvious what you're seeing just in a general sense. When you're watching a film, the things that are visually apparent are super apparent. So the thing that kind of contextualizes it is the sound. That's why a movie in the movie theater doesn't look theatrical. It can look theatrical, but it only is theatrical because the sound matches and contextualizes the visuals to such an extent where it really sells them and makes them seem as grandiose as they are. And that's the case with this film, with Uncut Gems, where the soundtrack is the driving force. So many good films with a soundtrack that's kind of the main heartbeat of the film. I'd say There Will Be Blood's one of them. Very cuckoo, very weird, very like, it's very, a lot of beautiful and kind of like melancholy melodies with also just like very abstract and like, you know, unnerving percussion. Probably one of the greatest scenes ever filmed is this one scene towards like kind of like almost the end of the first act where they find this big oil reservoir and it accidentally catches on fire because there's like an explosion, and it's like it's all chaos, and Daniel Plainview, or Daniel Day-Lewis's character there, he's trying to save his son from the explosion, and they're all running around chaotically trying to figure out how to put this fire out. That's this big shooting geyser of oil that's on fire. And there's they're just screaming, and all that you're seeing this kind of very, really cool, majestic imagery. And any other movie, in literally any other movie, like, you would just have some sort of, like, fucking generic Hans Zimmer, blow, 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 boom, 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 just, like, fucking annoying as shit, like, just in your face. And in this film, it's literally just, like, 10 different, like, orchestral percussion instruments just, like, playing in, like, polyrhythms to just set your, like, hair on the back of your neck on edge, just from, like, how, like, just unsettling all these polyrhythms are. And just, it really, just, like, the way it eats at you and gnaws at you, like, it's such a bold choice. There's so many bold choices, and if the movie wasn't as good as it is, all the confidence behind all these bold choices would make it like an unwatchable piece of shit. Like, there are a lot of movies that are very self-assured of their greatness and really like to bask in their greatness. And I'd say Quentin Tarantino, there's a couple of his films I love for sure because he's very talented. But there are also a couple of his movies, let's say like The Hateful Eight, for example, where it's like a 3-hour-long movie. The movie could have been easily an hour and a half. There's no reason that movie is over an hour and a half, except because he has all these really cool ideas and he wants to bask in the greatness of his creation. There's like this one opening shot in The Hateful Eight that's like literally, it's the opening credits, and it's just a 3-minute shot, literally just a 3-minute unbroken, uncut shot of zooming in onto like the statue of Jesus Christ or something, just zooming in on a statue, and you're waiting for 3 minutes. You're waiting for 3 minutes for the credits to end. You're waiting for 3 minutes for the credits to end, and the shot just keeps going. It just keeps going because Quentin Tarantino's like, no, you don't understand. You don't understand. This is the greatest shot ever. This is the greatest opening credits scene ever. So there are films where they go on and they bask in their own greatness, quote unquote. But you know, a movie like There Will Be Blood is basking in its greatness, but it's deserved, and it doesn't overstay its welcome. It's a long movie. It's like almost 2.5 hours. But every single second is helping build the characters, helping build the world, the setting, the location. Like, the location is so quintessential as a character to the film. It's like that's kind of why it reads as a novel, because a novel, like, and when you read Lord of the Rings, Tolkien spends 100 pages describing a fucking forest. They're just walking through a forest, no action is happening, but he spends like 100 pages describing them walking through a forest, and that's, you know, and I'm making it sound like it's excruciating and boring, but like, not many other mediums take their time, especially with movies that come out today. I do not think a movie like There Will Be Blood could come out today in the landscape of films that we have now. Everything is meant to be as fast as possible, quick cuts, you know, you have to just trim all the fat, trim everything. So with a movie like that, where it really just takes its time, and you just have to sit and, like, it could not survive in today's landscape. And it's funny, the kind of one of the similar film that was being shot at like almost at the same exact time at almost the same exact location was No Country for Old Men by the Coen brothers. And that's more of a kind of thriller, like kind of like not action, but like more like thrilling and exciting, a lot like more, has more like action slash thriller scenes. There Will Be Blood doesn't really have, it has like a couple like fast paced tension spilling scenes, more so like a slow burn of like, you know, emotional and like psychological tension. But No Country for Old Men, that's another one. That's like the first 30 minutes of that film. Also, like, there's only like 4 lines of dialogue. Like, there's barely any talking in like the first little bit of the film. It's so precious with the dialogue, which is very, you know, it's very restrained for the Coen brothers, especially because they're like the kings of quippy dialogue. Like they are kind of, before the Marvel movies, were the kings of the quippy dialogue, and there's no talking in like for like 70% of that movie. And it's like a crazy little time capsule. But There Will Be Blood, so brilliant in so many ways. Just like, it gives you time to sit with the characters as their relationships change, and very emotionally moving in parts, very devastating, very bleak, kind of somewhat cynical at times, but you know, it's just a banger. It's just a banger, and it warrants a watch by any person who likes movies. That's all I'll say.